Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And folks, I've got some things that I'm going to share with you today that I know you're going to find interesting. In fact, I've got a couple of topics that I'm going to be touching on that you're going to want to see this one, I assure you. And before I get into it, though, and I know everybody hates out there when I'm petty about things, and I hate being petty about things, but I've got one nagging little troll that just cannot help herself. Now, she makes fun of me in videos. She does video every day trying to dispute everything that I say. And here recently, she's gone as far as to call me a liar and a misogynist pig. So I'm like, you know what? I've never really said anything bad about this lady. But that's not why I'm doing it, because, you know, she does these videos where she calls me a liar, and I'm like, are you serious? This is your evidence that I'm lying? Good grief. So we're going to take a quick look at one of the things that she has said that I've lied on, and then let me explain something elementary. And I'm explaining this, you know, to her if she can grasp it. Not sure that she can. But first, watch this little short video where she calls me a liar, and she's debunking what I said about an article about them looking for Kopaka after he was unalive. Check this out. This is you got to see this. Take note here is the date that this article came out on December 16th. See, this is when the news dove in and found out about them collecting this video. Why would they do that on December 16th? Well, because Kopaka had just been unalive the day before. The news was associating Kopaka, because they knew he had lived in Kendrick, with the video collection of Kendrick, Idaho during the investigation.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Just let me just try to explain what she's saying. Okay, so they unalive Kopaka on December the 15th. On November the 30th, they went to Kendrick, all the way out to Kendrick, to get video from the gas stations in Kendrick and Troy. For some reason, nobody knows. I suggested that because the article was put out on December 16th, that the news journalists zeroed in on Kendrick because they were trying to get information to see if law enforcement was looking into Kopaka as possibly the assailant in the Idaho 4 atrocity, which makes total sense. She comes back with this video saying I'm a liar because the coroner in Spokane did not announce Brent Kopaka's name until December 19th. And that was her, oh, looky here, I debunked him. Now, folks, ma'am, the atrocity on King Road brought in every investigative reporter from as far as the eyes and mind can see. They were all converged in Moscow and Pullman from November the 13th until they arrested Bryan Kohberger, and even after that. Now, these are investigative reporters, okay? Investigative reporters, their job is to get an insight in a story and try to have their organization be the first to be able to break a story. Okay? So, do you think when they unalived Kopaka at his apartment on early in the morning on December 15th, do you think for a second that all of those investigative reporters didn't ascend on Kopaka's apartment, his roommates, the officers involved, anybody bystanding, the person who owns the apartments and leases out the rooms? Do you really think it was that difficult for them to ascertain that they unalived Brent Kopaka on December 15th, an investigative reporter? You really believe they sit around and wait for the coroner to announce their name? This is what I'm talking about when the people that try to debunk me have got their life learnings and they base life on all my children. I mean, they're that naive. It's hilarious. But it was that music that she used in her video when she called me a liar. Listen to this. Is that not the most annoying music you've ever heard? Let's hear it one more time. No, that was not necessary, but needed to be done. So the reason you're tuning into this one, though, is because of the roommate and the possible angle for the roommate, DM. Well, I'm going to give you some information about DM that I firmly believe is the reason why she wasn't unalived. Do not know why BF downstairs wasn't, but I'm pretty sure this is what. Now, this wouldn't stop a Bryan Kohberger if he was a Ted Bundy assassin, like everybody's trying to say. He went in there to unalive everybody. Now, we all know that's ridiculous, but that's what all these people are truly saying today. He went in there to unalive everybody. Yet, the room he went past twice and obviously knew somebody was in there because they opened the door and yelled at one point, and opened the door and stared at him at another point. But he wanted to unalive everybody, but he just stopped there. They said he broke his knife. The guilters are making up everything in the world. Now, I think this is likely what stopped them from unaliving DM. Check this out. Okay, so I've been trying to find a link between DM here and the atrocity forever because of the 8-hour time delay, the fact that she wasn't unalived, and I've gone through, records of her boyfriend, his dad. I mean, I've hit dead end so many places it's unreal. So I decided to dive in a little closer to family connections because we all heard that DM and BF both have powerful families, and I think I have come across a reason, not why a deranged serial killer wouldn't, or SKer wouldn't, unalive her, but I have come across reasons why an organization such as I've described in this would definitely not unalive her, and it's due to familial connections. You see, her father is one of 4 brothers, and her father, Brent, here is a very imposing figure. I'd hate for him to, get those arms around my head and squeeze it like a coconut. But even being an imposing figure, that's not going to deter a criminal organization in the midst of Omerta doing what they are going to do. But I think it's one of his brothers that is the main deterrence in this. And you see, our guy Stanley here, being the prosecuting attorney for Kootenai County, Stanley comes with 11 years experience as an attorney and 10 as prosecutor, with 9 years in Kootenai County It also should be noted he previously served as a Kootenai County Sheriff Deputy for 8 years. He started in detention and later switched to patrol. So Stanley here is well known throughout the Coeur d'Alene area, and with a lot of the action going on in Coeur d'Alene, the last thing that an organization would do if they had knowledge that a close relative of Mr. Mortensen here was in that house, they're not going to harm them, because the repercussions on them would be way more than they could handle, and they would know this. That would be a real statement if they harmed DM because of Stanley. But Stanley might not even be the most intimidating person in their family. I think it's the grandfather, Paul. You see, he's fairly famous in his own right. He has written a book called No Ordinary Life, and when you look at his background and credentials, I agree with him. No ordinary life there, Mr. Mortensen. So any knowledge of this guy's family being in the house would send people running from her direction. In fact, not only not hurting her, let's look at his resume. You can see that Mr. Mortensen was born in Idaho in 1948, spent his early years raised on a farm or doing farm work for other farmers. He graduated from Brigham Young University in 1973 with a Bachelor of Science degree in law enforcement. Then later in 1992 for the University of Baltimore with a Master of Science degree in criminal justice. Mortensen's 31-year professional career was a combined 9 years serving his country as an officer in the United States Marine Corps from 74 to 83, and an additional 22 years as a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, retiring from the Bureau in 2005. Before finally retiring in 2020, Mortensen was a substitute teacher, a Sheriff's Department Marine and Transport Deputy, and a special deputy with the United States Marshal Service, contracted as a federal court security officer. Mortensen and his wife, Stephanie, reside in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. They're parents of 4 sons and have 11 grandchildren. So with this gentleman's connections in those organizations, and him being, fairly well known, actually writing a pretty darn good book, I think that leads to why that, along with her uncle, leads me to believe why DM was not harmed during this atrocity. Has nothing to do with a Ted Bundy guy, because she absolutely would have been gone to this day. You see, in my humble opinion, the reason the Idaho 4 case gets so complicated for some people trying to justify all of the events and actions that took place in and around the crime, it's because they all want to look at it from the lens of, this is one deranged college student that miraculously, went in and pulled a horrible atrocity off all on his own. And you see, when you look at everything around the case through that lens, nothing makes sense. And they're grasping for everything. Oh, he's going in to take them all out. No, it was targeted attacks. We don't, with this, that. But when you look at it through the eyes of what I've uncovered in this case, it's not hard to make sense of just about anything. In fact, it's fairly easy because it makes sense. That's a key. Now, moving on to the next subject, here recently I've been discussing some things with my members about this strange character, this Aryan Knight, him and his cohort that busted out of the Boise prison and unalived several people, during their escape. And strangely enough, Ann Taylor ends up defending one of them. At the same time, she's defending Mr. Kohberger. So while I'm not going to disclose all the information that I have about that at this point, I do want to point out a couple of key things that you're probably not aware of. Yesterday, there was a closed hearing, ex parte, in the Bryan Kohberger case. A lot of speculation has gone on around that. I have given my 2 cents on it. But there's something else that happened the day before that you're probably not aware of. The day before that, Ann Taylor was down in Nez Perce in a heated hearing with the Nez Perce prosecutor and the judge. And by the way, back in August, I'm not going to pull up the documentation on it right now, but that judge or that court down in Nez Perce, I believe it was actually Ann Taylor that filed the motion asking for an auxiliary judge in that case. And one was granted by the judge. And guess who that judge is? Judge John Judge is the auxiliary judge on the Meade case. Strange enough. In fact, right after that, right after he was appointed the auxiliary judge on the Meade case, is when he made the decision to change venue on the Kohberger case. Like literally days. And then, not long after that, he announced his retirement that would take place on January the 18th. That brings me to what I need to share with you on this matter, because Meade is going to trial on February the 3rd. And his pretrial scheduled date is in black and white, and I need to get this out there just in case Ann Taylor's not aware. I think she is, though, but just in case she's not, I need to get this out there because she's got a scheduling issue. But let's talk about a couple of the events that happened in that hearing on December the 10th with Meade. See, there's something in contention in the Meade case. Apparently, when Meade was arrested and transported, he said some things on video to the officers. And Ann Taylor has been trying to get that video for a long time. And for some reason, she can't seem to get it from the prosecutors. And it has some type of really important information that Meade disclosed to those officers in that video. And for whatever reason, they're not giving it to her. Now remember, this is one day prior to the Kohberger ex parte hearing. So Ann Taylor filed a motion demanding that she get that video within 48 hours of the hearing. And it seems like you can see she asked the court order prosecutors to give those files within 48 hours. Evans granted the request with a stipulation they not show the material to Meade for security reasons. And if you think about it, 48 hours would lead directly into that ex parte hearing for the Kohberger case. Is there something in that video that Meade stated that relates to the Kohberger case? I don't know, but it sure is interesting. Now, something else I need to show you that everybody should be aware of, especially Ann Taylor. As you can see that the trial schedule for the Meade trial is, he has a jury trial scheduled for February 3rd, 2025. But the final pretrial hearing is going to be on January the 23rd, 2025. So that final pretrial hearing is a big deal before you go to a jury trial. Well, look at that date, 1/23/25, Nez Perce. Well, I have screamed from the rooftops many times that the Rule 12 ICR motions, which are in response to the discovery in the case, and the ICR motions are in response to the motions to suppress, but also the discovery motions are scheduled on the same date. You can see that date is January 23rd, 2025. So one of the biggest hearings scheduled in the Kohberger case, other than the trial, are both scheduled on January 23rd, 2025, the exact same day that the pretrial hearing for the Meade trial is scheduled. So Ann Taylor can't be at two places at one time, so something needs to be rectified about these hearing schedules so that we don't have a missing attorney on that date. Now, one thing about attorneys is they keep a very detailed appointment book with them at all times. And whenever they're scheduling trials and hearings well in advance, they open up that appointment book and they write down when they have a hearing scheduled. So with a very important hearing coming up in the Kohberger case on January 23rd, you can bet it was written down in her book the second she got that hearing schedule. And with a very important hearing scheduled for the Meade case, you can bet she opened up that same book and wrote down that same date. So for me to think that an attorney like Ann Taylor doesn't realize that she has two different hearings scheduled on the same date, very hard for me to swallow. So that tells me one thing. Some people may look at it and go, well, she's going to try to pull something then. No, that tells me one thing, that Ann Taylor anticipates either the Meade case not going until January 23rd or the Kohberger case not going until January 23rd. Wonder which one it's going to be. Doesn't look like they're going to let up on Meade, I can assure you that. But tell me your thoughts. And folks, I try to bring you as much information as I can on this case. And I'm sorry if I demean other people in the process that are very demeaning to me. I mean, goodness. I mean, I literally take about 13 punches before I fire back a little jab, so give me a break. But please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Until next time, Pavarotti's out.
Was it the fire burning in me?